Welcome to Ira's Everything Bagel, where I talk with intriguing people about everything, their passions, pursuits, and points of view. Some of you may have seen the film. If it's Tuesday, this must be Belgium. The 1969 movie featured American tourists taking an 18-day guided bus tour of 9 European countries. Well, there's a better way to travel through Europe, and my guest has written about it. Travel author, photographer Lucas Peters has written Grand European Journeys, 40 Unforgettable Trips by Road, Rail, Sea, and more. It's published by Moon. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all the usual places. And for everything about Lucas Peters, who also owns Journey Beyond Travel, it's a boutique travel agency, go to lucasmpeters.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. And Lucas, welcome to the show.
All right, thanks so much for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. So I think you're the farthest guest I've had on the show. You're in Morocco.
Yeah, I'm in Tangier, Morocco right now. I'm in the home office, as it were.
Can you can you dress the way you're dressed in Morocco and get away with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Morocco is a very liberal sort of country. Like Moroccans dress in jeans and t-shirts as much as they do jalabas and kondoras. So it just sort of depends on where you're at in the country, how people want to feel. You see a lot of Western, especially in the cities, like a lot of Western wear.
Right. Well, you started I guess, in traveling in 2001. It was a study abroad
Yeah.
experience in London.
Yep.
And from there, all of a sudden now you're all these different places. Why did you decide to write this guidebook?
Well, it was to be totally honest, it wasn't me that decided to write the guidebook. It was actually Moon wanted to do this guidebook, and they thought I'd be a really good fit for it. And so they approached me with the idea. And my first knee-jerk reaction, if anybody out there knows what I've written before, I've written mostly about Morocco. That's even though I've traveled a lot in Europe, I've written a little bit about sometime in Iceland, Paris, that sort of thing. But I've done their Moon guidebooks. I've done their Morocco stuff specifically for about 10 years now, maybe a little bit, maybe more like 12 years now. And, my first question was, hey, this book sounds amazing. Why do you want me to write it? I'm your Morocco guy. I'm in Africa. But to be fair, like outside of my terrace right here, I do look at Spain. Like Spain's not that. It feels like you can kind of swim there some days. Like
Right.
it's really like the Strait of Gibraltar where we're at. It's pretty narrow, but yeah, I talked to the editor and everything. Like I talked to Grace Fujimoto. There, she's fantastic, and so Grace and I were just talking through it, and she's like, "Listen, you've just done a lot of these sort of travel experiences that we want to relate to people because you've done a lot of the hiking, a lot of the rail trips, you've rented cars and done crazy road trips." And I think she follows me on like Instagram or something when I used to post a lot about this stuff. And so yeah, it was just a conversation of like, how do you make it happen then? And
So what you're
yeah,
telling us,
so
if I understand correctly, is you didn't decide to write the book, you decided to accept the check to write the book.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't even like to be fair, like the check's not that much. So like, I love Moon, like they're great to work with, but like it's not like you get paid a lot to do this sort of thing. But I love the challenge of it. I love the idea of like the modularity of some different sorts of itineraries. And to be fair too, just being where I'm at, I have so many friends and family that ask me like, "Hey, we're going into Paris. What should we do? Oh, we're going to be in Italy for a few days. What should we do?" And this gets me out of a lot of work later on in life because I can just be like, "Here's the book.
Here's the book.
Check
Yeah.
it out."
Yeah. And since you're family, I won't charge you for the book, but if it's anybody else here, yeah, give me the money and here's
Oh, I
the
still charge them. Don't worry, I still charge them. They can spend the $20 on the book. It's fine.
Yeah, it's well worth it because it's not only different itineraries, you have all maps and photos, and it's quite descriptive, and you seem to have fun with it. I think would that be a key aspect of this? You're not dreary. You don't have that kind of personality, and so you're not going to write that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, travel should be fun, right? I always tell people I work with, whether it's with my company or people I'm like just in the industry with, trying to write a great guidebook or something. I was like, listen, if it's not fun, we're doing something wrong. Like travel should be educational. It should be immersive. You should be able to like check out and explore somewhere else and feel like you're getting another piece of the world. And if that's not somehow a little bit fun, like stay at home.
Yeah, yeah, staying home and just save money and do all that. But I guess what people
Yeah.
think about in terms of travel, I interviewed someone just recently who talked about, and it was fascinating. They planned their trips 6 months ahead of time. In other words, they went with purpose. They knew who they wanted to meet, and what they wanted to do. And so they spent 6 months and then they went and did it. And as a result, wrote a book. What I like about your book too is that it's in essence a guide to, for want of a better term, eating and drinking your way through Europe, no matter what your taste. So you're designing your, as your boutique company is, you're designing
Yeah.
itineraries for different types of people. What's the most unusual group of people you've had to deal with?
Um, I'll give James Wisnowski a shout out here. He's a watercolorist out of Los Angeles, currently living in New Hampshire, I think. But he wanted to bring a group of his friends, and they wanted to do watercolor painting all around Morocco. Like, and so like we talked a lot about the time of day we're gonna, what particular street corner, how the shadows are going to be crossing it, on March 19th or whatever it was, So I mean, we got highly specific with that, but that's the kind of stuff I love to do. Yeah,
That's definitely a curated tour.
yeah. I mean, I love doing this stuff. I love the challenge of just like someone has a very particular interest that they want to pursue somewhere, and most of us, I think, when we travel, and I include myself with there, it's a little grab bag. I want a little of this, a little of that. But I also know like there's a few things that I love, and if I see that thing I love somewhere in another culture, it's another way for me to engage with that culture. So I went. I used to. I still can repair typewriters, but I used to repair typewriters. It was one of the things I enjoyed doing.
Wait. Electric or manual?
Manual.
Excellent.
Yeah, I don't know my way around a electric very well. Like
Uh-huh.
I know, but yeah, you get into the electronics of it, I'm beyond that. But
Okay.
no, like I mean, I'll tell you, my favorite typing experience for portables an Olympia SM9 for sure. Like that is just a fantastic machine. But I go around, and if I saw like one of the secondhand street market selling things, like I'd take a look for typewriters, like you travel and I make room in my luggage for a typewriter. Also, I've taken some ridiculous typewriters home, which are not light, those are not lightweight.
Right.
So that would be like my souvenir shopping. I try to get like an Italian keyboard from Florence or whatever. So,
Where do you put all this stuff? Because you do travel a lot and you work with clients, and you wrote the book.
yeah.
So where do you put all the stuff you collect as you travel? You have to have a warehouse or a storage unit or something.
Well, my wife made me sell most of it,
Oh, okay.
so
That's
there's that.
okay.
But yeah, but we do have a family home in the south of Spain, so there's like I have a little suite there with all sorts of odds and ends from around the world. Another whole library over there of stuff.
Do you find that the world of, and we talked about this before we started, the world of technology has changed so much that does it make it easier for you to do your job, not just writing the guidebook, but also just in terms of your business, curating experiences for people that want to do certain things in certain countries?
I think like a lot of things, it's a good question, but like a lot of things, it's a bit
Wait a
of
minute. All my
both.
questions are
Like
good. What do you mean? It's a good question.
yeah.
All good. Come on.
Yeah, well, it's just me pausing for time. I'm just
I
like I
know.
try to talk about.
I
Yeah.
called you on it, of course. Yeah.
But no. Honestly, I think on one hand, it's almost too easy as a traveler, but I think it more of as a traveler. It's almost too easy now because I think some of this stuff I miss relying on a paper map. Like that, and getting lost trying to do the scout thing and asking
Right.
the guy on the street corner in my really bad Bulgarian like how to get to like this like plaza, and so I miss that because I think it takes away some spontaneity, because now we're sort of programmed. We're like, okay, cool, we're gonna find the top 10 TripAdvisor reviewed restaurants and go with one of those. It takes a little bit of the discovery out, I think, a little bit, which in turn, like as someone curating a trip, it actually makes it a bit more difficult in a way because I have to weed through a lot more garbage. And there's a lot of garbage on the internet, so it's just like
Right.
kind of wading through stuff if I haven't been there yet to kind of see. And to, I guess, as a business, what I do, we curate stuff that we already know. So I'm not sending people to places I haven't been, restaurants I haven't checked out, hotels I haven't slept in. Like that's a different thing, I think. But before I do that, that pre-trip for me, like pre-trip research, it's a lot of wading through stuff, because there's just a lot of junk between booking.com and TripAdvisor. And I don't know, there's 1,000 of these Expedia or whatever, there's 1,000 of these websites now.
How does it work these days? Because with obviously the development of online resources, there was the thought that travel agents are not necessary as much as they used to be.
Right.
But clearly you have a thriving business. Is it because of the curation aspect of it? You're creating a unique experience for clients. Is that why it works in your case, as opposed to somebody just going online and trying to wade through all that stuff and trying to create an experience that they can't work out themselves?
I hope so. Really hope so. Yeah, I think there is still a group of travelers that prefer someone who's been there and someone they trust. And I think, we're such a little small business that, I meet all of our clients at like Zoom, like this, sort of thing. And so we build a rapport, a trust. And I think that carries over, and yeah, I mean, I'm of course doing all the books and I'm trying to give people really good information as well. And it's information I think people understand that I've been there, I've tried it out. So either you kind of like what I have to say and you enjoy my take on things, or you want to find someone else or do it yourself. And I think it is. I think travel is democratized. You can do it by yourself. You can do it, fairly cheap, fairly inexpensively. You can travel Europe. You can travel the US. It's just a different style of travel, I think.
Right. It's no
But
longer
it's
that.
definitely possible.
Yeah, it's no longer Europe on $5 a day, but it's still reasonable
Yeah.
in that sense.
Yeah, not $5, but maybe 10.
Yeah. Now, the book again is called Grand European Journeys, 40 Unforgettable Trips by Road, Rail, Sea, and More. The more I assume is underwater, and well, that would be sea then. So I guess there's not that many other. Hot air balloon, I guess, would be.
Outer space.
Yeah, yeah, space. I was thinking about that too. Well, road, rail, sea, and more. So yeah, you could do a hot air balloon, which would be none of the above. It'd be more. So yeah, that could work. What was your
It'd be
big?
air. It'd be
Yeah,
air.
yeah, exactly. But you don't
Yeah,
list air
yeah,
in the
yeah.
subtitle of the book. That's why
No,
I brought that up,
yeah,
just to give you a
yeah, it'd
hard
be
time.
air.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, the and more though, the and more, that's we were trying to figure out how to do these sort of adventure travel stuff. Like if you wanted to go hiking, biking, and do like the Camino de Santiago, or do, the awesome, Copenhagen to Berlin on a bike, like how do you put that? Because we weren't going to do 10 biking itineraries, we weren't going to do 10 hikes, but we did want to include some classic ones in there and just show people how it's possible. So that was kind of the and more cluster right there.
Do you see that the reaction you're getting? You maybe want to do another version of this book, maybe call it 40 Not So Grand European Journeys for the for the more modest traveler or something like that. Is there enough material for another book after this one?
Oh yeah, we had. I mean, if it was, if I had my druthers, this would be about a 1,500-page book. So,
Right.
like, it's just unwieldy. But we had to cut some like fantastic itineraries, whether because it was a country that was overrepresented, we just felt we already had a lot for that country, or one that unfortunately, when we were doing the research, that's when the war in Ukraine broke out. So we had like two great ones in Ukraine that we couldn't publish, because of what's happening there now. On the ongoing war there, it's just you can't promote that sort of travel right now, unfortunately. Hopefully we will in the near future, but not now. And kind of along with that, we didn't end up doing as much as we wanted in the eastern part of Europe. Like we had some other stuff for like Poland, Estonia. I had a really fantastic road trip in Bulgaria that I'm really bummed didn't make it. So yeah, there's a lot more out there.
You write about like outdoor, we talked about a little outdoor adventures example from Dublin, which I assume is just sitting outside drinking Guinness, right? Is that what that is? Outdoor adventure?
Yeah, basically, yeah, all you do is listen to the traditional music in the pubs and drink Guinness. No, like I tell people, to be really, really clear, like as much as I've done a ton of these, I haven't done all of these. So I'm the lead writer on this, but there's a handful of other writers who actually specialize in a place like Ireland, which happens to be one of the places I haven't touched yet. It's one of the few European countries I actually haven't been to. So I was on another interview a while ago, and we were like, "Hey, what's the one place that you're like, I should have got there that I never could get there?" And Dublin's my one place, like it's like one of the bigger cities in Europe I've never been able to visit.
Well, there's still time. You're relatively young, so I think that will work out.
Yeah.
When you put the book together, was it your guidance in terms of the format of the book, or was it coming from the book publishers, or a combination of the two?
It was pretty collaborative, like all the way around. They came with the idea like, hey, we want to do a Europe book, we want to do itineraries. The number was unknown. How they were going to be organized was unknown. We understood early, like early on, like, yes, we'll definitely have a rail chapter that's just classic,
Right.
but the question is, what are the rail trips then? Because you could do a lot of them. So that, we probably could have done just a book of rail trips, and that exists. But we were trying to come up with something that hadn't been on the market yet. And the idea is, a lot of us, when we travel Europe, we'll land in a major city. We'll want to spend a few days in the city, maybe go to another major city, but then we'll still have like a week. So it's kind of like, okay, so you do Paris, you do London, but you still have this week. So from Paris, where else can you go? And that's, for me, the kind of cool thing with this book is it's modularized. How can I say it? I cannot say that word today. Modular. I'm gonna eat it. I just can't do it. They're modularized. There you go.
I'm glad you had to stumble over that instead of me. That's great.
But the idea is, you can take them and kind of mix and match a little bit. So what we're doing at every itinerary is we're telling you what pairs well with. So if you have a bit more time, hey, check out these itineraries. You can leap right off from Paris pretty easily, or you from Madrid or Barcelona or
Right.
Vienna or wherever you happen to be.
You mentioned the classic rail trips and French Riviera, the Alps, etc. What is it about the rails that are more romantic, it seems, in Europe than they are in the United States?
Have you ever ridden the rail in the United States?
I have. I still enjoy it, but
Yeah.
is it a mentality? Is it a design? Is it a combination of various factors that make the European rail experience just more
Well, I,
romantic or
yeah, I, yeah, I think part of it is they actually have more modern trains that are a bit cleaner and faster, so you can hit cities pretty easily. I think about the last train trip I did in the U.S. Actually, I flew into New York and I went straight from the airport with my 5-year-old son, and we took the train to Boston because I had not done a train in the U.S. for a long time, and I thought, hey, the train connects, it'll be fine.
oh yeah.
And just the connection and the slowness of the train. I mean, it was like a 5-hour train ride. And when I looked at it, I did like the reverse American thing. I'm looking at it on the map. I'm thinking, oh yeah, there should be like a 2-hour train ride. I didn't even look at the time, And
Right.
we're like into this train ride. I'm like, oh, let me check the ticket. How long until we're actually there? But I think part of the thing in Europe is it is fairly quick to get between cities. I think that's part of, I mean, it's amazing to go from London to Paris in a couple hours, and you're going under the water. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is still
Like,
amazes me that they did that. But isn't it also
the engineering is fantastic.
yeah, but isn't it also you pick up more of the flavor of the land as you travel by train in
Mm.
Europe as opposed to the United States? Although I would say there are some adventures that you can take a train in the United States and the West and really
Yeah.
enjoy.
Yeah, I think part of it's the landscapes. There's some like through the Alps, like you mentioned, or the Bergen line and stuff that are just wonderful, just amazing. You're just looking at just these mountains dropping off into the sea, and it's just mouth dropping, just like wow, that sort of thing. But like there's also I wouldn't underestimate the sleeper car though, because I think we're talking kind of budget travelers, not
Right.
like can
Right.
you still do it on $5 a day? Well, one of the things people, still do to save money on hotels and stuff is they take the sleeper trains, and that way you get a night. So you're not in it for the landscapes, but the people you meet. You're going to meet travelers that are traveling by like as you might travel. Whether you're with a couple, you're going solo, you're with some friends, you're on that gap year. You're going to meet kind of like-minded people traveling at the same kind of level as so I think there's that. There's a sort of like a social aspect to it as well as like a money saving thing too.
Yeah, I can see that. It's also more efficient because you've gotten your sleep on the train, then you get off the train and you're ready to start the day and not have to worry
Mhm.
about checking out of the hotel. You're just off the train. And
Yeah,
it,
and then bam, you got your backpack on and you're hitting
yeah.
Budapest or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. When you were putting this all together for the book, and again, it's called Grand European Journeys, 40 Unforgettable Trips by Road, Rail, Sea, and More. And we're going to meet Mr. Moore in just a few minutes. But that was a bad joke, but I had to do it. Sorry about that, Lucas.
Like, where's
But
Michael? Is Michael Moore coming on
yeah,
this?
he is. Yeah. If we can get him into the screen, we'll see. But or Roger Moore would be better actually, since we're talking.
Roger Moore would be
Yeah.
great too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. when you're putting all this material together, how do you, oh, this is a tough one. Because you've traveled so much and you see so many things and you write about them and you put them in the book, how do you know that let's say you wrote about a cafe, how do you know that cafe is going to be there a year from now or 2 years from now, or you go to some other kind of event that normally happens every month or every year, and then all of a sudden it doesn't anymore? How do you guard against that, or is there a way to work that out?
Well, I should introduce you to my magic ball. I have this ball that I can rub and look into the future, and then I say, ah, that's still.
You know, now
I
don't be
wish, I wish.
sarcastic on my show. How dare you, sir?
How dare I, right? No, like I mean, so there's you can't know the future. Like we have a saying here in Morocco: tomorrow is never given, right? I
Right.
mean, you can't, you can't. Who saw the pandemic coming? Like who saw,
So,
like there's
so you
things.
really don't have a crystal ball. Okay, I get it now. All right.
There's no crystal ball.
Right.
But what you can do, there's some classic places that I still love that have been around for 100 years,
Like the
200 years.
Eiffel
You
Tower's
have
been
to
around.
assume.
That's not going to be moved or, yeah.
Who knows? But I mean, normally it should still be there, right? So there's some places that you're like, hey, this cafe, this has been working for a while. Usually, I typically won't include a place until I've seen it around for a little bit. Like I've seen too many places open and they don't make it, past 6 months or a year, and then they have to close, right? So I've seen a lot of that. And unfortunately, like, one of my favorite coffee joints in Granada, like it'd been there until the pandemic. And so I think also is, and it didn't make it out of the pandemic, unfortunately. So there's a continuous sort of updating of my own sort of just notes and knowledge and stuff. But once I see like a cafe's been around for a while, that's a good one because they're kind of coming and going quite a bit. I feel pretty confident it's still going to be there. Festivals are kind of the same thing, like sometimes they change the calendars, but once it's on its like third iteration, fourth iteration, you kind of see it's a thing. They should normally continue that. But that's part of like when you do an update, that's part of the updating process too, is like, hey, are these restaurants still there? The cafe still, does the hotel, is it still good, or has it, changed ownership and gone
Right.
downhill,
Right.
this stuff happens, so it does. Yeah.
How do you find time to balance the business with the writing, the research, and your own love of travel? How do you work that out time-wise? And you have a family, so how does that all work?
Well, first of all, my wife's awesome. So like, it doesn't work without her, right? So
Yeah.
she's great, and my kids are fantastic. We started traveling with them when they're early on. So yeah, so my kid, he's 8. So my son, he's 8 years old, and we've been traveling with him since he was 3 months old. And at this point, I am happy doing solo trips with him. He'll help me out, as a matter of fact. And it's great having him on. I still have to watch out. I still have to kind of pace myself, but like when he needs that playground time, that's okay. I can sit back and do my notes. That's when I'm working on my notes. So it's sort of like, how do you mix the family and the travel and the writing and the business and stuff? And luckily with the business, if I have my laptop, I can kind of work from anywhere. Um, and that's usually okay. And I have, to be fair to our businessmen, we're a small business, but we have a great team. So like tomorrow morning, I'm flying to Rome. So me, like as an example, I'm taking the family to Italy for a week, and we're trying out some a few places I want to try out. We're doing like a bike ride through Tuscany. We're gonna do a pasta making class. My kids have never been to Venice, so I think they're going to be really happy to get on the gondolas and kind of do the water taxis and stuff. So we have some really super fun stuff. One of the big reasons we're going there is my wife's going to do the Vatican tour, the key tour, where you go first thing in the morning and you go with the guy who opens up the Vatican. So it's you and just a handful of people, and you get the Vatican to yourselves. You get the Sistine Chapel without the big crowds and stuff. So we're trying that out. We're gonna like, she'll try that out. I'll be with the kids. But we're packing up. Like after this, I'll finish packing over here, and we'll be out the door. But as we're going, I have my team here in charge of everything for our tours that are going, for the travel company, and then for writing. I just finished up I finished up my Andalusia like guidebook, and so I between doing promotion for the Grand European Journeys and the Andalusia book, wrapping that up, it's been pretty busy. So I'm kind of taking a week where I'm like, okay, I get notes for myself, get a kind of, I'm not, it's not for other people, but I know 6 months from now, a year from now, I'm going to be like cobbling notes, from this tour together for something
Right.
else, like, something I'm doing with my family. I'll generate something out of it. It's just kind of how I work.
Do you think you're going to look back on all of this 40 years from now and say, how did I do all that?
Probably.
What was the big challenge putting the book together? Was there one thing that took a little bit more, I don't know if the word would be effort, but there were challenges on some aspect of it, whether it was collecting information or putting into a format that made sense or some other speed bump?
No, no, the writing part of it was the research part was tough because so I was I live full time in Morocco. And at one point when I had some research trips, this was still in the middle of the pandemic and Morocco had just shut its borders again. And so I had like two research trips that just kept getting pushed because I couldn't get out of Morocco. Like the borders were shut. There was no planes, no boats, no hot air balloons.
Yes.
There's no way to get out of the country. So that was tough just logistically. And then of course, then the war in Ukraine starts and that kiboshed a whole nother, group of research. So we ended up having about 6 months of research trips just totally scrapped or like rejigged, So like one of the deep dives I wanted to do in Estonia like didn't happen. So we ended up doing kind of a quicker, which I think works out pretty well, but a quicker rail trip kind of through the region, through the Baltics. And I think that worked out, but like I'm a little bit bummed that because I should have been up there for 2 months instead of like a really quick 5 days.
Yeah,
So
but you
like
couldn't
that whole
control it.
region.
Yeah, you couldn't
Yeah,
control it.
exactly. So that was the biggest challenge. No, you can't. And that's the thing with travel. You have to be flexible. Things are going to happen that's out of your control, and you just kind of have to roll with it. But those are the biggest challenges, honestly, because once it gets into the writing, once the research is done, the writing's where I just have fun. Like it's and that hopefully that does show in the text because at this point after about like 50th restaurant review or hotel like write up or like like how do I describe getting on a train some different way, I have a lot of fun just dialing into the language a little bit and saying, okay, what can we kind of what verb haven't I used
Exactly.
like a
What
thousand
adjective
pages or
can I
whatever.
possibly add to this description of a, yeah, that makes sense. Before I let you go, last question, what's your favorite part of the book? It may be a trip or a location or a person? What was your most favorite?
Yeah. Oh man. Whew. Favorite part, okay, favorite itinerary is Paris to Bucharest and going all the way to Istanbul. Actually, we put a little addition, so that's my favorite itinerary because you can do anything with that one, and I just think that's classic. It's romantic. It's fantastic. But as a writer, my favorite part, it was a big challenge. But there's in the early part of the book, there's like this 2-page spread on like the European lifestyle.
Mhm.
And I went back and forth with the editors. I was like, listen, it's a continent with a lot of different cultures. Like, there's no like unifying sort of thing. But they're like, yeah, but we need to somehow address this. So I was like, okay, let's see how we can do it. So I think I managed to like distill something there that to me feels really honest. Um, and I think just seeing it in print, like knowing the challenge that was just as a writer trying to distill a way of life from a continent that is not coherent. Like I think it turned out okay. I think it turned out all right.
Well, that's a great way to leave it. My guest has been travel author, photographer, Lucas Peters. He's author of Grand European Journeys, 40 Unforgettable Trips by Road, Rail, Sea, and more. It's published by Moon. It's available on Amazon, Barnes& Noble, and all the usual places. For everything about Lucas, who also owns Journey Beyond Travel, a boutique travel agency, go to lucaspeters.com and you can follow him on Facebook and Instagram. And Lucas, thanks for being on the show.
Modularity. Thank you.
Modularity.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
You got it. And join us every Thursday for a new schmear on Ira's Everything Bagel.